I ain't even gonna do an intro today. Franco's dead. Let's discuss. Now, if you guys have watched GHMV for a while, you would know that I'm not a Franco fan, I'm not a Frizz fan. However, I think as viewers with varying opinions on who we love and who we don't love, I think that we can all come together here in agreement that there's at least one person that deserves to die more than Franco, and he's the one that put a bullet in him. Now, where we last left off, Franco knocked Peter out with a crowbar, and it turns out that he dragged him to his art studio to torture a confession out of him and record it. Here's how it all went wrong. Number 1, he told Peter he recorded it. Number 2, Peter got out of his restraints and grabbed his own gun that Franco didn't think to unload beforehand. Number 3, Franco tried to grab the gun, which inevitably ended with Franco getting shot and killed by it. Now, you would think that with all of Franco's experience serial killing over his history, that he would be a lot more prepared. I mean, we know that Franco was good with technology, so you'd think that he'd use more than a phone to record Peter. I mean, he didn't even have other devices lying around recording it, which you think he would have. Although I know, in all fairness, he didn't really have a whole lot of time to prepare, but you'd think he'd have, like, old stuff lying around, right? Also, you'd think that he'd know how to tie a good knot. And of course, Peter deleted the recording, so I guess we can only hope that the recording is in the cloud somewhere. So Peter takes off, and not long after that, Jason shows up because he was trying to track Franco down, and he finds him there lying unconscious and bleeding out. Not long after that, Elizabeth shows up and sees Jason kneeling over his body. Elizabeth tried desperately to save his life, and unfortunately, he didn't make it through. To tell you the truth, at first, I really thought it might have been a fake out. To look at things in a behind-the-scenes sort of way, Frank Valentini and Roger Howarth are obviously very close, and I feel like it was that connection that made me think that as long as Roger Howarth doesn't want to go anywhere, Frank Valentini isn't going to kick him off the show. And I'm not necessarily wrong about that. I'll talk about that in a bit. But from a story and a viewer point of view, there were a couple of things that made me think that maybe the death was fake initially. For starters, given the way that Elizabeth walked in on Jason, you would think that Jason would stand up right away and say, I know what this looks like, but I didn't do it right away, and he doesn't do it, which is why Elizabeth ends up accusing Jason of murdering him. On top of that, there were a couple of shots where you could see Roger like swallowing and blinking when he was supposed to be dead, but that just could be that Roger's maybe not really good at playing dead. And in addition to that, there were moments where it looked like Elizabeth noticed something about Franco, but then it was never acknowledged in the next scene. And on top of that, they didn't put Franco's supposedly dead body in a body bag on the gurney, he was just on the gurney. So yeah, all of that seemed very suspicious. However, Elizabeth does go to Cameron and tells the bad news to him. I don't think that she would put her kid through that, knowing all the things that he's been through this year. I mean, all the teens collectively have been through more hell than like half the population of Port Charles in this 1 year. By the way, I can't move on without saying William Lipton did a fantastic job on learning the news of Franco's death. I felt bad, and you know I don't like Franco or Frizz, but my heart was breaking for the kid. Furthermore, Cameron sneaks into the hospital morgue to see if he can find Franco's body because he didn't believe that he died, and he finds it in a cupboard on a slab. Definitely dead Franco. So unless there's some kind of crazy Cassadine thing going on, it looks like Franco is actually dead. Now, with that said, Roger Howarth did an interview with Soap Opera Digest, and he confirms that he is not off the show. He is going on a hiatus for a little while to work on some charity stuff. But the article does heavily imply that he's going to be playing a new character. It doesn't necessarily confirm it, but it does imply it. Honestly, I don't hate the idea of him playing a new character. I mean, Michael Easton has played like 4 in the last 7 years, so what does it matter? There's actually plenty of GH stars that have played multiple characters on this show. But you know what, if that is the case, I do have to question why would they kill Franco off like this? It just seems a little bit strange because they were in the middle of the Franco's tumor is back story, so it, like, to shoot and kill him, it's weird. It's so left field. Like, to be honest, if Franco was going to die, I'd want him to go out with a bang, you know? I wanted him to go full villain and get killed by Jason. Like, tell that story. Peter August killing Franco is so dumb. But anyway, my question for you guys is, if Roger Howarth comes back as a new character, what kind of new character would you like him to play, or is Franco it for you? Let me know in the comments below. Continuing on, like I said, Elizabeth accused Jason of killing Franco because of the plan that they had sorted out together, and the PCPD bring him in to question him, but Jason does say, I did not kill Franco. Usually he doesn't speak a word, but he did speak those words. Scott Baldwin sees that Jason is in there for questioning, and he is gunning for Jason. He wants revenge. He says that he is going to bring hell down on Jason. Not that I blame him. This poor guy has lost lost 3 kids already. In all fairness though, Logan was a bit of a psychopath. Not really a good guy. Karen I didn't really know too well. I know that when she was a teenager, Sunny got her into drugs and that's why Scott hates Sunny. But I think in the end she ended up dying in a car crash or something. And not even on GH, I think she died on the spin-off show Port Charles. Side note, Sam actually showed up to Elizabeth's house the next day to give her some comfort, knowing that she was there for her once and she just wanted to return the favor, but things got awkward when Elizabeth said that Jason murdered Franco, and of course Sam didn't believe it. Sam actually goes over to Jason to ask him point blank, and of course Jason says he didn't, and that was good enough for Sam. Now, let's get back to Peter. Good old Petey Pete. Maxie spent most of the week making the audience want to pull their hair out. She spent most of it trying to defend Peter. She yelled at Anna, which I actually don't blame her for. She defends him to Britt, pointing out that Britt is a pretty shitty person herself. And then Sam and Spinelli show up to comfort Maxie, and this was the first glimpse of the real Maxie that I have seen in ages. I was so happy. Their dynamic all these years later are exactly the same. I loved that scene. Maxie even went as far as to apologize to the both of them, which I thought was very big of her, and said that she feels like she betrayed Sam. And both Sam and Spinelli didn't blame her for it either, which was really nice of them. Honestly, I don't think I would have been as nice. And then of course, Peter shows up after escaping Franco, and Maxie lets him into the room. To be honest, I fully believe that Maxie would have let herself believe that everything that was said about Peter was a lie if Peter said that, but Peter done slipped up. Instead of just lying to Maxie, he says, let's run away together. The past is behind him and he's taking care of everything. Maxie actually asks him what that means, and he dodges the question. She asks it again and he dodges it again. And then he says, take my hand if you believe in me. And she takes his hand and I was like, no, do not do this, Maxie. But then, true Maxie came out. She came out to play. She looks him dead in the eye with her hand in his and says, my only wish is that you feel the pain that I felt when I thought that I lost my baby. And then she lowers the boom and says, the man that I loved never existed. I am not running away with you now or ever. Yes, Maxie's brain is back. Welcome back, Maxie. We missed you here. Not long after that, Max storms into the room to throw Peter out, and Anna and Valentine follow into the room. Mac mentions that Franco died that night, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but Maxie was staring at Peter really hard. I'm pretty sure she's actually suspicious of him. To be fair, Jason is pretty suspicious of Peter too. I mean, he knows that Peter definitely has motive to kill Franco, but wouldn't it be something if Maxie is the one that takes Peter down? Of course, Jason and Maxie can be as suspicious as they want to, but what it comes down to is they need proof and they don't have it. I feel like we've watched the story for the last 3 years because we have. And to be real with y'all, I'll be upfront, with Wes Ramsey's connections to the show himself, I don't think that Peter is going anywhere. To make matters worse, said connection went on to social media to argue with other GH fans on whether or not Peter could be redeemed. Not a very good look. Listen, I've said this a lot of times in the past, but I'll say it again. My biggest pet peeve with this show is that the writers are obsessed with trying to redeem all the villains. Why? Why do they need to be redeemed? Let them be villains. Y'all don't even know how to write a proper redemption storyline to begin with. You're just lucky that a huge chunk of the fans don't care whether the writing is actually crap as long as the actors themselves are still on the show no matter what. Honestly, I don't think I would have had a problem with characters like Julian or Valentine or Franco or Peter if they just let them be villains unapologetically. Consistently, every single time that the writers do this with a villain, what ends up happening is that characters that we know and love are thrown under the bus for their sake. They end up acting completely out of character and the storylines don't make sense, and it just frustrates me even more. You know, these are characters that I grow up with, so seeing Maxie just be so oblivious to Peter, and same with Anna, it was just so irritating. These are smart women. They don't get duped this easily. I know Maxie ended up with that Levi Dunkelman guy, but that was during the Ron Carlivati years. Every single character was acting out of character, and I hoped that we got past that. Ron Carlivati's GH was like a really bad fan fiction that got way out of control. The funny thing is, now Peter is acting like an unapologetic villain, which could have been fun, but y'all stretched this storyline out for 3 years. At this point, we just want the character dead. I am all tapped out. Let Peter go out with a bang. Hell, bring Frisco back and have him defeat Peter. There was actually a brief scene where Anna was talking to Frisco on the phone, and he was clearly pissed and hung up on her for letting that man get close to his daughter. I guess he's not such a deadbeat after all. Now, the other main story that happened this week was the fallout from Gregory overhearing Jackie and Finn's conversation. Y'all remember what I said? I said that he's going to have questions and he's gonna get the answers. And he got those answers. They told him the truth. And just like I thought, Gregory went straight to Chase's house to tell him the truth. However, he didn't expect Finn to be there. Finn had actually crashed there because Violet was there, and he had no other place to go. Chase goes to take a shower, and of course Finn and Gregory decide to talk about things, and when Chase comes out, he overhears a couple of things, and when Finn's leaving, he sees on Finn's phone that there is a notification for a DNA test and 12 missed calls from Jackie, and he starts to ask questions, and then Jackie shows up and decides to tell him everything. Apparently the reason Jackie had a change of heart is because of what happened between Anna and Peter. She didn't want that to happen between her and Chase, so she tells him everything, and Chase is devastated. There's that word again. I don't think we've ever seen Chase this angry on the show before. Chase is kind of like a lovely little puppy dog, like you just want to pinch his cheeks, and he's just so adorable and so innocent. But man, he yelled at Finn and Jackie to get the hell out of his apartment. He goes to Gregory and he just bursts into tears. I felt so bad for him. Now keep in mind at this point they haven't actually gotten the DNA test results, but that doesn't really matter to Chase. He says that Gregory is his father no matter what the DNA results say. I'd be actually kind of surprised if it didn't end up being true that Finn was Chase's father after all this. I'd be like, what are we doing here? Now the only other things worth noting this week, and I use the words worth noting very, very lightly here, is that Michael and Willow have yet another conversation about the things that Wiley did off screen and agreed that they should, have their decisions as parents together. Again. Same shit, different week. And then Sunny plays a poker game and wins it and saves the Tano from being bought out by a shady businessman who now wants to know who Mike is. Question, is anyone enjoying Sunny's storyline? Anyone at all? I mean, really, do we need to see Sunny tend and bar in a small town right now? Let us just have a break and bring Sunny back when he's starting to get his memories back and makes his way back to Port Charles, because no one cares. I did see Maurice talking to Stone Cold in the Jackal podcast about how much he's enjoying what he's doing right now because it's different and he's kind of getting to play a different role and interacting with different characters, but I mean, this is GH. Just be Sunny. It's not interesting, I'm sorry. Just make him the bartender at the Port Charles Grill. At least he might interact with characters that we actually care about. Anyway, it was one hell of a week on General Hospital. There was so much chaos. I did not expect Franco to die. That is truly a plot twist I did not see coming. What were your guys' thoughts on the show? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I will catch you guys this Wednesday for another GHMV Reacts. Peace out. Congratulations.